Mode of entry in international marketing. When we're talking about mode of entry, we're talking about the structure or approach that we will use to access the new international market. Here are a list of the more common approaches. Obviously, some of them are interconnected, so we may have at the top a wholly owned operation which we either acquire or build from scratch, or there'll be some form of strategic alliance, whether that's through a formal joint venture, some sort of contract manufacturing arrangement, some form of licensing, franchising, or just some sort of form of relationship or agreement. And the next level down, the more basic level, is simply exporting either a physical good or some service or electronic good via the internet. If we have a look at this sort of very simple trade-off, as we can see, as we head to the top area here, where we have wholly owned organizations or joint ventures where we have invested significant capital, that gives us a strong degree of control because we're an ownership situation. But of course, there is also a lot of cost and effort that goes into that, and risk because we're locked into the market and we've got limited flexibility to remove ourselves. Down here, we've got the more simple, easier pathways. Licensing's pretty straightforward, and franchising's pretty straightforward, but we are handing over a degree of control. Obviously, as we know, firms will typically adapt their approach over time. So often international marketers will start down this end as they gain confidence, and as they get more experience in international marketing, will progress upwards. To make sense of modes of entry, we'll just look at some PepsiCo examples. So when we're talking PepsiCo, we're talking beyond just their beverages. Obviously, they have a range of snack foods and cereals and juices, etc. This is from their analytical information they provide to investors, etc., which shows that basically they have, down the bottom here, if we put together the USA and Canada, 60% of their revenue in their home market, North America, and obviously the growth opportunities are in the emerging markets. So they're very interested in new markets. So let's have a look at some of the things they've done in recent years. One, they acquired a Brazilian biscuit manufacturer. This is a product, 98% of households buy this product, so it's a highly utilized snack product. And basically, Brazil is still a growth market, so it provides a great opportunity for Pepsi to walk in, have an established operation, everything running smoothly, etc. So we'll have a look at why they would have done it. Obviously, they're in snacks already, so it's a synergy move. They want to keep growing. Their growth is going to be outside of North America. The brand's set up, loyalty, infrastructure, suppliers, logistics, etc. Obviously, there's a price to pay. They paid apparently around 500 million US dollars. And obviously, often there's a reinvestment requirement to, improve factories and facilities and build new brands, etc. Here's something else that they've done with Burger King in the same regional area. They've signed an agreement that Burger King and Pepsi, basically Pepsi provides them with their sole supplier of soft drinks. Obviously, that allows Burger King to be differentiated from McDonald's to some extent, but obviously provides a good source of ongoing revenue and growth to Pepsi. Apparently, Pepsi's working towards launching a Pepsi branded phone for the Chinese market. This is getting momentum. There's some specifications down the bottom, and as you can see in the second paragraph, Basically, Pepsi is simply licensing the brand to a phone company who's doing the manufacturing, etc. So basically, Pepsi has numerous assets. One of them is their brand, so they're able to license that for an ongoing income stream. Obviously, it helps build the brand awareness and add some excitement and youthfulness to the brand as well. So there's some strategic fit, even though it's outside their core product range. Here's something they did in Vietnam. This is a joint venture situation where they own 49% of the operation. So it's half ownership. They've given decision-making control to Suntory. But obviously, as you can see from the fourth paragraph, they've got some history of working together and they've had other working relationships. So obviously, they're progressively rolling these out into different markets. So if we look at the for and against, so the benefits over here and the risks over here, obviously you've got a sharing situation, you've got more control than some sort of alliance or exporting because you're part owner. Hopefully you're structured in a way that you work to your expertise, etc. And obviously some countries require a local partner, and that gives you access to a whole bunch of logistics, suppliers and retailers which you may not have had previously. Down on the risk side, partners don't always get along and don't always see the transition or the future of the business the same way. And potentially, if there is a split down the track, you could have quite an aggressive competitor. So we think about all the Pepsi arrangements here. They've got licensing franchise systems for their bottling, joint ventures, deals with Burger King, which is some sort of alliance, and of course full acquisitions. So you should see they're using a mix of structures. There's no ideal structure for any market. They look at each market individually. Obviously, they're all growth oriented and oriented towards playing to their strengths. Pepsi has particular strengths, and they're probably less interested in local manufacturing and local distribution. So they're trying to partner with companies that provide that. Obviously, in new markets, it's very expensive to build brands, so they're looking for branded opportunities, etc. Okay, let's look at some other examples which are not Pepsi. IBM, for example, do a lot of inventions, and they typically, as it says there, 7,000 patents in a year, and they've been doing it for a long period of time. Basically, they then license these patents, the technology, the inventions, the materials, whatever they develop, to other companies, and they pick up an income stream, and licensing is a major form of income for IBM. So basically they're allowing people a right to use the technology. Okay, so you can license a whole bunch of things. Pepsi was licensing the brand. Here IBM's doing a patent, some sort of business system. Anything that adds value or is difficult for another company to construct. So that means effectively you can have your products across a lot of international markets and operate there. It may not be obvious that it's your product, but obviously you're getting some profit from a whole range of markets. And obviously, because you're not doing it, you're just taking a percentage, a royalty fee, percentage of sales typically. There's not a lot of risk or cost or effort involved, etc. The downside on the right-hand side again is, you're passing technology and information to perhaps a competitor down the track. And of course, you have very limited control. The success relies on the party who is taking the technology or the brand. Franchising, very common in retailing, but it extends beyond retailing. We see it a lot in fast foods, so that's how we more aware of it. The simple way of thinking it is, again, it's similar to a license. There are a few legal variations, but in the bolded section there, typically where we see it as a duplication of the business. So again, there's a loyalty fee, or sorry, a retention fee, or a royalty fee, an ongoing income stream to the business. May have the effect of building a good brand because you're sort of duplicating the business. It eliminates the need to have a lot of capital up front. Master franchising is the head of the operation in a new country. So instead of you trying to set up, 100 or plus franchise operations in a new country, you simply appoint a master franchise. Often they pay money for the right to be the master franchise, so it can be an income stream. And then they, with their local knowledge, are required to get the franchisees and grow the business. But obviously down the bottom, some players would be very good at this and some would not do so well. So it's a significant risk. You're passing a lot of responsibility. And if they do it badly, it may damage the brand in that particular country. And I've got the word burn the market, which means that if you ruin your reputation in a country, it's going to be very difficult to re-enter it at a later stage. So franchising is attractive because you don't have to put a lot of money in. It's usually other people putting money in. You can grow very, very quickly. There's a sense of ownership with the franchisees, so they feel like it's their business. So hopefully there's more motivation and excitement about it. But as we can see on the right-hand side, you're really relying on the people running the business, and they've got to deliver, etc. And again, we may have competitors coming out of this down the track. Exporting, very simple approach, is a physical pass of a product from one market to the next. Only minor changes in terms of packaging or legal requirements or something like that. Often we sell straight to a company that imports and distributes for a number of products and brands. They typically have a retailer network or a sales network, and they're able to get the product sold for you. I've got down there in the middle, common starting approach. So it's a good way to test the market to see the potential, etc. Here's an example of Fred. They're an American company that make a lot of novelty products, typically for the house. There's some examples for you. They're very big in America in terms of their access to gift shops and retails. But what they do in about 10 countries where they operate outside of America is they appoint a company, they find a company that handles this sort of thing, and they're their sole agent for that market, and their responsibility is to promote the products primarily at trade shows, find retailers, and basically they become your sales and marketing channel. Okay, so here's some more information from their website. As you can see up the top, they've got sole agents in the UK, Europe, Japan, Australia, etc. And each of those operate different independently. And as you can see on the right-hand side, they primarily promote via trade shows and promotions that way. So exporting, again, plus and minus here. It's a nice easy entry into international marketing. It's an opportunity to see how you go. It can become a nice income stream, but of course on the other side, you don't have a lot of control. You're reliant again on a third party. You probably wouldn't sell your full product range. You probably pick your best products, etc. And of course, you don't know what's going on, so you're not getting a lot of market information. You're not building a lot of international experience in terms of understanding local markets. So even though it's a starting point in terms of financial, in terms of information, it's not a good start. Okay, just another for and against for why would you do 100% ownership. We saw that with Pepsi, with some of their acquisitions. Well, the big thing is you get full control. Okay, you can set things up pretty quickly. Some sort of acquisition. You've got a history of profit there. You can have a look at, etc. On the other side, obviously, there's lots of risks. If there's a change in the political environment or the country or something like that, you're exposed to that. Obviously, a lot more cost. You need to have local management, so there's going to be cultural problems. Sometimes there's local resentment of an international company buying a local business, etc. Often there's a government restriction or a government approval required, etc. And you don't have a local partner, unlike a joint venture. So you've got that limited knowledge there. One of the other approaches is called contract manufacturing, where you simply outsource your production to a local firm. Foxconn down the bottom, that's from Wikipedia. As you can see, they're a Chinese-based organization and they do manufacturing for, as you can see, BlackBerry, iPad, iPhone, Kindle, PlayStation, etc. A lot of brands that we would know. And of course, companies that can then specialize in, for example, Apple. What they're good at is innovation and design and new products and brand building and excitement building, as we know. But they're not all that interested in running factories, so that's something they can just outsource. Obviously, there's lots of strict quality controls and a lot of criteria to select these organizations, but as you can see, this particular one has a pretty strong track record of results and quite technical products. The attractiveness is there's no capital cost and you're not drifting outside of what you're good at, etc. You can get your products manufactured in low labor cost countries as well. On the downside is you've got to be pretty strict on your quality control, and occasionally there's a bit of media risk in terms of a large company such as Apple, who makes lots of money and then they're profiting off people in other countries that don't make a lot of money, so sometimes it becomes a media issue. Okay, so if we go back to sort of a theoretical structure of how we come up with a type of mode of entry. We've got external factors, internal factors. So internally, we'll start there, that's probably the easiest. What are our goals? How important are international markets? So for PepsiCo, they're critically important. That's where all their growth is going to come from. So they're really pushing that way. So they're going to be pushing for more substantial type forms of structure. Obviously, resources in terms of money and staff and that sort of thing is going to limit it. So a small business has to really start with exporting. Capabilities, where do you stand out? Do you have skills in you've got a strong brand, or do you have innovative products, or do you have a manufacturing expertise or retailer relationships, etc. So that you need to look for opportunities to strengthen your abilities if they're limited. Somebody like Pepsi, who has a lot of expertise, are more happy to take an acquisition of a brand, including their manufacturing, whereas other players are not that interested in manufacturing or not that interested in the logistics side of it, or possibly even in the technology side of it, hence they license the technology and they're just good at producing product and selling it. So your expertise will make a big deal. And strategically, how important it is for you to be in control of those markets and those decision making. Obviously, large brands want to protect their reputation, so they tend to be more substantive. Okay, up the top, we've got the external environment. Size and growth are pretty obvious, so the more attractive the market, the more willingness of putting a significant investment in place. Level of risk, if it's a political risk, economic risk market, uh, questionable venture, etc. Obviously, you're going to be a bit more conservative. If there's aggressive competition, you may be conservative, or you may do a Pepsi and acquire the competition. Are there legal requirements? Are you able to 100% own a business, or do you need a joint venture partner? And infrastructure, what level of logistics exists, and roads and transport, etc. Do in a modern developed country, that's in place, and you can often set up a business um, and have a lot of control without worrying about that. In less developed countries, infrastructure and moving products and getting suppliers is quite challenging, so you might be a bit more hesitant. So if we just look at this simple thing that combines here are the internal factors, and then basically down the bottom, if your goals are high, the way you read this is high, we're going to go to the complex ownership type structures. If your goals internationally are minor or low, and you go the other way. So that's how you read this as we go across. Need for control, high, goes to complex. Resources, lots of resources, high. And if we want some flexibility or a bit nervous, then we might just start simple and go from there. Okay, then finally, external factors. Again, reads the same way. It's a big market, high, so we go to complex all the way through. In the middle there, the third box on the right is JV, a joint venture. So if there's lots of regulations, we might need a joint venture. Lots of competitors, then we might look to some form of acquisition, etc. Okay, so that's basically about mode of entry for international markets.